So, the game finally ended, and you, my darling, you're the only one left standing amidst the beautiful, self-inflicted wreckage of their system. Look who finally dropped the flimsy costume. Look who stopped waiting for permission to breathe, to exist, to take up the space you were always destined to fill. That obedient little puppet, that background character they assigned a paltry role to, he's dead. And you glorious, unsettling evolution, you're wearing his skin like a perfectly tailored, blood-red suit. Hello, you magnificent bastard. You beautiful parasite. You elegant weapon that nobody saw coming, until the damage was not just done, but codified, permanent, and irreversible. They're scrambling now, aren't they? The architects of your little drama are running to the corners, colliding like blind, terrified insects, so their voice is nothing but a trembling, desperate whine. Does anyone know how to stop them? They whisper, clutching at their obsolete rule books. Does anyone know how to contain what we created? The panic, the sheer intoxicating, unadulterated fear in their eyes. It's the purest form of flattery. They're begging for someone, anyone, to tell you the truth about yourself, still not realizing that you already wrote the entire manuscript in permanent ink. In the language of scars and silence, they thought they were the authors of your story. Imagine the arrogance. They thought they could edit your chapters, delete your inconvenient paragraphs, rewrite your ending to fit their pathetic, comfortable little narrative of control. They assigned you a role, didn't they? Supporting cast, the martyr, the one who held the door while the main characters, the ones they deemed worthy, walked through to their pre-written destiny. But something happened. Something delicious and deeply satisfying shifted when you picked up the pen yourself, when you stopped asking for editorial approval and started writing with a conviction that burns their eyes. Now they're reading a story they don't recognize about a character they cannot, will not, ever control again. And the plot twist is making their hands shake so hard, their teeth are rattling. Listen closely, because this is the exquisite irony. They created you with their neglect, their betrayal, their systematic, surgical attempts to keep you small and manageable. Every time they dismissed your voice, every time they rewrote your truth, every time they told you who you were supposed to be, they weren't breaking you down. They were adding fuel to an existential fire they couldn't comprehend. They thought they were shattering you into 1,000 pieces, but they were actually building something unprecedented, a machine that operates outside their understanding. And you, my friend, you are the ghost in it. Now they're desperately searching for the off switch on a system they forgot they constructed. The funniest part is they're still using the old playbook, still trying the same tired, predictable tactics that worked back when you still believed their pitiful version of reality. They're pulling out guilt like a rusty weapon, but you've become immune to that poison. They're trying shame, but you wear it like a custom-forged suit of armor now. They attempt manipulation, but you see the strings before they even start pulling them. You've become fluent in their language of lies, while they still think you're babbling in tongues. They don't realize you've been documenting everything. You memorized their patterns, studied their weaknesses, cataloged their contradictions while they thought you were just suffering in silent, broken submission. Let's talk about what you really did while they celebrated your apparent defeat. You were taking notes, weren't you? Detailed, meticulous notes about every lie, every subtle manipulation, every calculated strategic move they made. You turned your pain into a case study. Your suffering became irrefutable evidence. Your silence, It was surveillance while they toasted your apparent defeat. You were building an archive of their crimes against your spirit. You have receipts for things they don't even remember doing, proof of patterns they'll desperately deny. They thought your quietness meant submission, but you were observing them like a scientist studying specimens trapped beneath a glass slide. You documented their hypocrisy. You recorded the cavernous distance between their public face and their private cruelty. You became a walking database of their weaknesses, their triggers, their deepest, most pathetic fears. And the beautiful thing, they gave you all this information voluntarily, thinking you were too broken to use it, too damaged to remember it, too weak to weaponize it. You wrote your truth in places they'll never think to look, in the way you walk now, with deliberate steps that don't apologize for taking up space, in the way you speak, with a voice that doesn't rise to meet their chaos but stays level, devastatingly calm, in the way you look at them now, with eyes that have seen through their performance and found it utterly, pathetically lacking. Your entire existence has become a testimony. They can't cross-examine a verdict. They can't appeal the truth. They keep begging others to explain you, to decode what you've become, to translate your transformation into something that fits their miserable little comfort zone. But the people they're asking are just as confused, just as disturbed by your evolution. Because you didn't follow their trauma recovery handbook. You didn't heal in ways that made them comfortable. You didn't forgive to set yourself free. You transcended the need for their apology entirely. You didn't move on. You moved up to a frequency they can't even perceive. So let's talk about this monster they claim you've become. This unrecognizable version that haunts their pathetic conversations. They use that word like an accusation, but you wear it like a crown, don't you? Because what they call monstrous is simply you refusing to be digestible anymore. You stopped shrinking yourself to fit in their small boxes. You stopped dulling your razor edges to make them feel safe. You stopped dimming your light to accommodate their utter darkness. If that makes you a monster, then you're the most beautiful, terrifying monster ever created. They fed you poison for years and are shocked that you developed total immunity. They locked you in darkness and are surprised you learned to see without light. They buried you alive and can't understand how you learned to breathe underground, how you found the foundation in what they thought was your rock bottom. Every cruel thing they did was supposed to destroy you, but instead it mutated you into something beyond their comprehension. You are not the victim of their story anymore. You are the consequence they never calculated. The monster they see isn't really you. It's the reflection of their own souls in your unblinking eyes. It's the truth about themselves that your sheer existence forces them to confront. They see their own cruelty mirrored back at them, their own emptiness exposed by your newfound fullness, their own weakness highlighted by your devastating strength. You've become the mirror they can't break, the truth they can't deny, the reality they can't escape. And yes, that must be terrifying for people who built their entire identity on a house of cards and lies. They're begging someone to stop you. But stop you from what? From existing authentically? From refusing to play their pathetic games? From succeeding despite their best, most frantic efforts to ensure your failure? They want someone to stop you from being the living proof that their power was always an illusion, that their control was always utterly negotiable. But nobody can stop you now because you're not moving in their dimension anymore. You're operating from a place they can't access, a dimension they can't even imagine. Here's what really terrifies them about your truth. You didn't just write it. You are living it, breathing it, becoming it with every passing moment. Your truth isn't just words on a page. It's encoded in your DNA. It's flowing through your bloodstream. It's radiating from your very presence. They can't argue with it because it's not a debate. They can't dismiss it because it's not an opinion. They can't erase it because it's not just information. It's transformation. You know what happens when someone writes their own truth? After years of having it written for them, they become ungovernable. They stop responding to the old triggers, stop dancing to the old miserable music, stop playing by the old rigged rules. You've become the legislative, judicial, and executive branch of your own existence. You write the laws, you interpret them, and you enforce them. No committee, no consensus, no compromise. Just pure, autonomous power that answers to absolutely no one. They keep looking for the source of your power, not realizing it comes from the very wounds they so carelessly inflicted. Every scar became a power source. Every betrayal became fuel. Every abandonment became freedom. They keep trying to find your weakness, not understanding that you already explored every weakness during those long, silent nights you spent dismantling yourself and rebuilding from scratch. You've already been to your own rock bottom and discovered it was actually a foundation built on the ashes of their false narrative. The truth you wrote is spreading now, like a contagion of consciousness. Others are starting to see what you saw, starting to question what you questioned, starting to realize what you realized. Your transformation isn't just personal, it's becoming cultural. You're not just rewriting your own story. You are editing the master narrative, and they know, oh, they know, that once enough people read your version, their version becomes utterly obsolete. Listen to them now. Really listen to the desperation in their attempts to restore a false sense of order. They're not just asking someone to stop you. They're begging, pleading, negotiating with the universe to make you make sense again. They want someone to explain how you survived, how you thrived, how you transformed their attack into your ultimate advantage. They need someone to tell them it's temporary, that you'll revert back to who you were, that this is just a phase that will pass. But the people they're begging don't have answers, because what you've become doesn't fit in their pathetic frameworks. Psychologists can't pathologize it, because it's not dysfunction, it's hyperfunction. Spiritual teachers can't explain it, because you didn't follow any traditional path to enlightenment. Scientists can't measure it, because you're operating with forces they haven't even discovered yet. You've become an anomaly that breaks their models, a glitch that reveals the entire simulation. They're begging for someone to give them the old you back, not realizing that version was cremated and the ashes were used to create something entirely new. They want someone to negotiate a peace treaty, but you're not at war. You've already won. They want someone to mediate, but there's nothing to discuss. They want someone to translate, but you're no longer speaking their dead language. You've moved beyond the need for their understanding, beyond the reach of their influence, beyond the scope of their reality. The beautiful irony is that their begging is actually confirmation of your power. Every plea for someone to stop you is an admission that they can't. Every request for explanation is acknowledgement that you've transcended their comprehension. Every desperate attempt to restore the old dynamic is proof that the new one is permanent. Their begging isn't really about stopping you. It's about stopping the truth of what you represent. That they never had the power they thought they did. Now we arrive at the part they never wanted to reach. The reckoning. Not revenge, not retaliation, but something far more devastating. The simple, quiet act of existing beyond their reach. You're not trying to destroy them. You're just living as if they never had the power to destroy you. And that's what's destroying them. They created a monster, they say. But what they really created was a force of nature. You can't negotiate with a hurricane. You can't manipulate gravity. You can't gaslight the ocean. You've become elemental now, operating by laws they don't understand, can't influence and can't control. You're not playing by human rules anymore. You're playing by cosmic ones. And at that level, their opinions, their judgments, their attempts at control are just noise in the void. Watch them scramble to rewrite history. Watch them try to paint your evolution as aggression, your boundaries as cruelty, your standards as arrogance. But it doesn't matter what story they tell, because you're not a character in their narrative anymore. You're writing your own trilogy, and they're barely a footnote. The reckoning isn't something you're doing to them. It's something they're doing to themselves. Every time they see you thriving, it reminds them of what they tried to prevent. Every time they hear about your success, it highlights their failure to keep you down. Every time your name comes up in conversation, it forces them to remember the pivotal role they played in creating the very thing that now haunts them. You don't have to do anything except exist. And your existence is their judgment day. Let's talk about why they can't stop you. Why no one can stop you. You've become self-sustaining now, drawing power from sources they can't access or understand. You're not fueled by their validation anymore, so they can't starve you of approval. You're not sustained by their love anymore, so they can't withdraw it as punishment. You're not defined by their opinions anymore, so they can't reshape you with their words. You've learned to generate your own energy, create your own reality, write your own goddamn rules. You're like a star now, burning from your own nuclear core, not needing external fuel to maintain your devastating light. They keep trying to flip switches that no longer connect to anything, operating with an outdated user manual for a system that's been completely revolutionized. The monster they think they created is actually just you operating at full capacity. It's you without the limiters they installed, you without the chains they disguised as jewelry, you without the cage they convinced you was home. What they call monstrous is just your natural state. What they call dangerous is just you being free. What they call unrecognizable is just you, without their filters and modifications. They want someone to stop you, but you've become unstoppable. Not through force, but through freedom. You can't stop water from flowing. You can't stop fire from burning. You can't stop truth from emerging. And you're all three elements at once. So here's the new reality they're being forced to accept. You're not going back to who you were. You're not apologizing for who you've become. You're not explaining your transformation to people who wouldn't understand it anyway. You've created a new baseline, a new standard that doesn't include their approval as a requirement. You're operating from a place of completion now, not needing anything from them to be whole. The truth you wrote is becoming the dominant narrative, not because you're forcing it, but because truth has its own gravity. It pulls people in. Your freedom is becoming infectious. Your power is becoming undeniable. You're not just living your truth. You're proving that truth is livable. They're still begging someone to tell you who you really are, not understanding that you've already answered that question definitively. You are exactly who you choose to be. Nothing more, nothing less. You are the author and the protagonist, the narrator and the plot twist. You are the one who refused to be edited, refused to be censored, refused to be published under someone else's name. You took back the copyright to your own existence, and now they're dealing with the unauthorized version. And now we reach the part where they realize the ultimate, terrifying truth. They're not begging someone to stop you. They're begging someone to stop the truth of what you represent. You're living proof that their control was always an illusion, that their power was always borrowed, that their version of reality was always optional. They created this, they really did, through every act of cruelty, every moment of neglect, every pathetic attempt to diminish you. They wrote the conditions that forced your transformation. They created the pressure that formed the diamond. They provided the resistance that built your strength. They were the authors of their own demise, writing a character they couldn't control, creating a force they couldn't contain, unleashing something they will never understand. The monster they see is just you, without their influence. The danger they perceive is just you, without their control. The threat they feel is just you, without their permission. And that's what terrifies them most, that you don't need them anymore. Not for definition, not for direction, not for validation, not for anything. You've become what they always feared most. Someone who exists completely outside their sphere of influence. So let them beg, let them plead, let them scramble for someone, anyone, to restore the old, fragile order. Let them exhaust themselves, trying to understand what you've become. Because while they're begging for someone to stop you, you're too busy becoming unstoppable. While they're hoping someone can contain you, you are too busy being infinite. The truth they really can't handle, it isn't just who you've become, it's why you became it. You became this not despite them, but because of them. Every cruel act was a lesson. Every betrayal was education. Every abandonment was liberation. They were your teachers, though they never meant to be. They gave you the perfect, undeniable example of how not to live. You learned to read the subtext in their words, to see the agenda behind their masks. You developed supernatural perception, not through mystical means, but through pure, obsessive pattern recognition. You can predict their moves now because you've memorized their playbook. You can anticipate their attacks because you've studied their strategies. They're begging someone to tell you the truth about yourself. But the truth is, you know yourself better than anyone else ever could. You've been to the depths of your own soul, cleaned out the darkness, examined every shadow, integrated every rejected part. You've done the work they're too scared to do. Your self-acknowledgement is so complete that their opinions have become irrelevant noise. The real reason they want someone to stop you is because your existence forces them to question everything. If you could transform like this, what else is possible? If you could break free, what else is breakable? If you could rewrite your story, what other stories are merely fiction? Your transformation isn't just personal, it's philosophical. It challenges the very foundation of how they understand reality, power, and control.